Welcome to Season 7 of True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. Real talk with those who pledge to keep us safe with grit, sacrifice and determination. Let's get on with the show. This episode of True Blue Conversations is proudly brought to you by Loudon Private Wealth, the team trusted by professionals, veterans and families across Australia to build real long-term financial security. If you want to take control of your finances, protect your future and build real generational wealth, Loudon Private Wealth are the people you want in your corner. They don't do gimmicks, they don't do hype, just smart strategy and honest advice, coupled with real-world experience. Check out the links in the description to contact Warren and the team via loudonpw.com.au or 02 8313 0418. Now let's get back to the show. This episode of True Blue Conversations was brought to you by Dead Reckoning Rum, creating individual rum releases commemorating the diggers lost in Afghanistan, proudly supporting veterans, donating 50% of all their profits to veterans organisations around Australia. Look up Dead Reckoning Rum, buy some bottles, connect via Instagram and Facebook and give them your support. Now, let's get back to the show.
I'm joined by a really good mate of mine and I'm coming to you live from Nowra, and we've just been to Digger Day for 2025 and it was an absolutely amazing day once again, and I've been wanting to catch up with this veteran for a long time now. We've been planning this for 3 years and we've finally picked a time to catch up. And this mate of mine had a very extensive career in the Navy, served for 35 years, deployed on multiple operations around the world, and is now doing some amazing work for veterans in the veteran welfare space, and his post-service life he continues to serve, and it's an absolute honour to have him on the podcast. And Fred Campbell OAM, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you, Adam, and welcome to the podcasters who are going to be listening to this. Yeah. It is a real honour to be here today to do this. As I said, it's been some while coming.
It has, mate.
But what better place to do it than here?
I know, mate. This is where I envisioned us doing the podcast. So mate, on Digger Day, you couldn't ask for anything better.
On a quiet Saturday night.
Yes, and we'll go and have a nice wine after
Absolutely.
After this one.
Yes.
But mate, before we get into your career, let's go back to a young Fred. Tell me about life growing up and what we like at school. Do you have any brothers and sisters? And what were your hobbies?
Wow, I've got to think back. It's been a while without showing my age. Now, I grew up in the Bankstown at Euguna in Bankstown. It's a very different demographic than what Bankstown is right now. Yep. But I grew up there. Went to school at Birrong Boys High. I went to Birrong Primary, then Birrong Boys High. Mm-hmm. Grew up normal thing. I played sport. I started playing soccer, and then when the body expanded into front rower size, I started playing rugby union through high school. Did water skiing. I was into boat racing, powerboat racing. Yeah, right. Got into that because I spent my whole life around water and things like that. But grew up in a really good family. I got two sisters, both younger than me. I was the eldest. Mm-hmm. Mum was we say a stay-at-home mum, but she did so much, as well as canteens and all those other things she did. My father was a tradesman. He was a fitter and turner and toolmaker, and I'd proudly say this, master tradesman who could do anything.
Yeah, right.
If you needed something, you had it either in a little drawer or he'd go up into the garage and whip it up. So that was, in essence, that was a very short snapshot of I grew up really, really good life.
So for you, because you joined the Navy very early on in like you were very young when you joined up. Did you have any family members that had served in the military or first responder before you, or were you the first? I
had my grandfather. He originally from Young. He fought in Kokoda Trail, but that wasn't my influence to join the Navy. It's a whole thing. We talk about Queen and Country and all that. Yep. At the time, we're now King and Country, but it was never Queen and Country. What it was. At that age, I enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I was good at school, but I just didn't enjoy it, and I wanted to get out and do things. And my father sat me down and said, because we could leave in year 10, but
Yep.
you had to be 15.
Yep.
So he said, yep, you can leave, but you have to finish year 10, get your school certificate, and if you leave, I would like you to get a trade. That was my incentive. I actually went out and got I was lined up for 5 different apprenticeships.
Mm-hmm.
Then one day this person walked into our school, part of the recruiting process, nice uniform, nice navy. I said, I like the cut of that. So that inspired me, and then I went and looked into it, and they offered you a trade, they paid you well, you got fed, looked after, and you go around the world. When I first signed up, I originally signed up to be a stoker, because Dad was in the metal trade and all that, and lo and behold, they offered me in the aviation world. So I went as an aviation, for blackhander, for want of better words, where I did engines and airframes. And I'm glad I went down that line, because it's been a very interesting trade, and I've learnt that much.
Yeah, right. So you joined in 1982 at 15.
Yes.
Political correctness doesn't exist like it does now. Talk me through being 15 and the process of joining the Navy back in 1982.
All right, so the process I joined 8th of January 1982, so I was 15 and a half. But the process, it takes nearly a year leading up to that. So I was doing all this when I was 14.
Far rare.
You know, all these things that I'm thinking, I look back and go, my boy he's now 27, I look back when he was 14, 15, ooh, I don't know, I should give him more credit maybe. But no, part of that process was to go through it. And when we got to HMAS Narimba, which was a naval apprentice depot just outside Blacktown in Schofields, around that area, Quakers Hill.
Yeah, I know.
Which, as you know, used to be farmland when I was there. Now it's all housing. So you turn up there, but you're not there alone. There's nearly 800 odd apprentices there, all under 18.
Yeah, wow.
So you're in almost like a college environment, and it was dog eat dog type college environment out there. But I joined with other people about the same age, so that made it easier. But it was still a different world, and it opened my eyes up.
So talk me through your basic training, because
Sure.
So you went to Rimba
Yep.
and did that, but then obviously you go and do your basic training. And being 15, and I think back to when I was 15, you're joining an adult's world. Was it shock and awe when you actually went to your recruit training?
It was first. What happened when I joined, because I didn't go to recruit school down in Cerberus,
Right.
because we were apprentices, so we went straight to Narimba.
Yep.
So what we basically did, we did our 4 weeks induction training, which really everyone does, to learn how to march, and that was the rude shock. March, wash your own clothes, iron, and how to be spick and span and do all that type of stuff. So we all did it together. So it was good, and you form friendships in classes. So we did that basic training, and then as soon as that finished, we were straight into our apprentice training.
Right.
So the way the apprenticeship worked with Navy, and same with Army and Air Force, they all had the same apprenticeship schemes. They were all about the same age. 15 and a half to 17 and a half was the age group when you joined.
Yep.
From there, so you had some 17, but then you got into your apprentice training. So you did basically theory training and some practical on dummy things, and so you did. So after 2 years, you got a certificate. Say you finish your theory part of your training. Then you would go to wherever. For me, aviation was Nowra, because that's where our naval air station was. And then you would get a task book with a bunch of practical items you needed to finish. And at the end of the 4 years, you were handed your certificate to say you're now a tradesman.
Yeah, right.
So that's basically it. But we'll talk about it a bit later, but I never went to Cerberus until I was actually the senior warrant officer down there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Went down there to play rugby, but I got my first posting to HMAS Cerberus was as the senior warrant officer of the whole base.
So you came down, so you went down that aviation trade.
Yep.
And what was that like? Because you get there, and were there some old hands there at the time when you first came through?
Well, it was an interesting time in the early 80s. That's the time when they were actually cutting down the fleet air arm. Because 1984 we got rid of HMAS Melbourne, the aircraft carrier. We've got newer ones, but not to the extent that was. So we're in a funny period where I was the first class not to get offered to go to jets. I got offered to go helicopters.
Yep.
And I went straight to Iroquois helicopter, the UH-1B, so I was thankful, very great aircraft. Anyone listening to this who's been near them, flown on them, been around them, will know about it. So, yeah. will know about the aircraft, good aircraft. But you did have some old heads on there. I can remember my first day on the squadron as a bright-eyed young seaman, excited to be out doing what we were paid to do and what we're taught to do. Walked into our admin area and there was a big chief who had someone by the neck and was throttling them because apparently they disagreed with them. To me, that was like, open my eyes up.
Yep.
But you look at that, they were isolated incidences. Did happen. If we'd be lying if say those things didn't happen. But fairly isolated. It was still a very bloke orientated area.
Yep.
And things went on, as we know. We always say pre-Facebook was only alleged.
Yes.
Anything before that, but it was definitely a unique environment to be a part of.
And I highlight this to the listeners: when you joined up, you joined in peacetime.
Yes.
So we weren't at war. And
no.
As we get into your career a little bit later, where things go crazy.
Absolutely.
What was that like at a peacetime? Like, was everything just sort of mundane, going through, just doing your job and what you were paid?
Well, those early years, like the first 4 years, was I was concentrating on getting my trade.
Yep.
So that was, and everything else that went on around that, but basically the trade. So the war part of exercising, always exercising, doing things, and from a squadron point of view, a lot of it was done externally because we would be at the squadron, be up early, get an aircraft ready, and then the aircrew would go out and do what they needed to do. But we still did have being 82, 83, we had a hangover from some of the people who went to Vietnam. So there was still a hangover there. Whilst we were in peace, so to speak, there was peacekeeping going on all around the world. There was still a hangover from people who had actually toured Vietnam. And so you still had that footing, but not to the footing that we went to and we are at now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And after a few years, this is where your career starts to... You start to post out to warships, and was that those postings came because, as I said, I think you're the fifth Navy person I've had on the podcast, which is terrible, I know, but it's just hard to get Navy people. Yeah. But was that because your trade required, the warships required you to be on those?
Absolutely, yeah. And at the time, when we had the aircraft carrier, they used to send carrier groups. So whole squadrons would go onto the ships. And when that disappeared, we were down to warships where they took a single aircraft or maybe two aircrafts on the brand new FFGs at the time, the frigates at the time. So having a helicopter on a ship extended the process on what a ship could do.
Yep.
Any submarine, search and rescue, searching, all those things. So part of it was taking the aircraft on, and my particular trade was part of that, looking after the aircraft, as well as looking after the flying operations on the deck and the whole lot of that. And I always laugh, we'll get into it a bit later, but I went around the world backwards. And put that in when you're on a flight deck, so that you're going around the whole world backwards.
Yeah, right. And so for you, like, you're living the dream. Like, you're young at early 20s at this point. So you're living the dream, and for you, this is where things start to pick up. Like, this is 1990. So you've been in a few years now. Yep. 1990-91. You deploy to Kuwait with Desert Shield-Storm on HMAS Sydney. What was your role, and did you, first deployment, so what was that like, deploying for the first time?
Well, to step it back a bit, I'd had deployed, but it was all peacetime. Right. I'd done RIMPAC 88, so Hawaii. Got to go to all the great places.
Oh, of course.
Did Southeast Asia, which was very much our focus leading up to 1990, was Southeast Asia. Still a hangover from Vietnam, also part of the Pacific. Pacific was another big one, so we'd visit the islands. So I'd done plenty of deployments to great places, had some fun. Once again, pre-Facebook, so we won't go there. But as a young fella, someone's paying me and I'm travelling the world. It's fantastic. 1990, when we were actually in the squadron, and at that stage I'd just come off a ship's flight. I broke my collarbone playing rugby. So I'd come off a ship's flight earlier that year, because I'd been on the deploying on ships. And then we were watching TV at morning tea and at Smoko, and Bob Hawke come on and talked about the Iraqis moving into Kuwait. So everyone was in a panic. My collarbone hadn't repaired, so I didn't go on the first deployment that went up there. Just went up to the Gulf of Oman. They didn't go into the Gulf because it was still peacekeeping, so to speak, as it was it wasn't warlike yet. It was a dangerous area, don't get me wrong, and everyone who talks will talk about it. And then they said, we need more people to go up. So I was on the next slot, and we were fairly senior. There was 3 leading seamen, and we had a chief who got promoted to warrant officer. So we all got together, put us on HMAS Sydney. Now this was one of the first ones where we deployed with I worked on Squirrel, on the Squirrel, the AS-350B. We took a Seahawk on it as well, so we had the capability of a Seahawk for long range, and the S-70B Seahawk, the older ones, and we had the Squirrel. So it was the first time we really had a big aviation push on a ship, because the FFGs have 2 hangars, so you can put them in. So for that, the training was not like we used to do. It was you learned how to firefight and do all that. This was learning how, because things having chemical warfare coming, we didn't know what mine warfare. All these things which were brand new, which were rumoured that Saddam Hussein was using in that area. So straight away into a war footing with your training. Doing anti-gas, anti-biological, all those things that you touched on but didn't really do much. But from 1990 on, that footing was war footing.
So and is that where you're, as you say, you're going around Southeast Asia, you're going to Hawaii? Is this the first time that you think I could be killed while I'm deployed, or not?
It's really not killed as much. It's more the fact that yes, it's the first time we actually realise we're going into harm's way. There's a better way of. Because the way I always put it, the government pays us to go into harm's way. Regardless of the outcome of that, that's our job. That's what they pay us for, is to go into harm's way. So it's the first time we went into. I felt we were going into harm's way, and leading up to there, and we were with HMAS Brisbane at the time. We both worked together, and we hit the Gulf of Oman, met up with the other ships there, and we went straight into the Persian Gulf. So things were starting to really heat up by the time we got there, which was late 1990.
And how long were you in that? How long was that?
We were gone 7-8 months, give or take.
Yeah, right.
And at that stage, we'd actually spent one of the longest times at sea when we'd gone in, because once again, that was that verge between the almost warlike to warlike. So we were actually out at sea for that whole time, right up in the northern Arabian Gulf.
And is that, at that time, were you guys just patrolling that area? Or
we were, because there was the American carriers up there. We were integrated into the Midway carrier group. Because Midway was still operational. As you know, Midway's a Majestic. Not Majestic, but that's World War II.
100%.
And obviously they've updated over time. So we were part of their screen, because FFGs were they had very good radar. They were part of the screening process, and anti-mine was part of our process.
So for FFG, for the can you explain what FFG is?
FFGs are frigates. So they're a fast warship, very sleek. Got one gun, shoots missiles. And got a flight deck. So that's basic. But very, very, very fast. We get up, 30-odd knots very quickly, and stop very quickly. And at the time, the frigate, the Oliver Perry Hazard class frigate, they were the greatest. And plus very big radar system in them and things like that.
So when you're away there for 8-9 months, are you looking like great deployment? Are you looking like you're glad to get back to Australia after that?
Oh, absolutely. And got to remember at the time we didn't have the emails, we didn't have the internet. We would get Saturday's paper, and we'd do things like we put up the tips for the day, the horse race, and say at Randwick. We'd have to wait 2 weeks for the Sunday's paper to come in so we could see who won. We wouldn't bet. We'd just put up, just as a joke. And coming back, we're still young, so we stopped at Singapore and a few other places. Had a big welcome as we come into Brisbane. Bob Hawke come and saw us and all that. It was good to get back, but it's also you miss, because that's what we get paid. I love doing that, and I was young too.
Of course.
I didn't have the kids, and I didn't have those other things that keep us. But I was looking forward to coming home. Yes.
And then after that first deployment, what's happening in the next part of your career?
All right. From that career, I went on to do a bunch. I worked in workshops, part of my trade. I did composite repairs, I did sheet metal repairs, worked in engines. Part of our trade, they put us into workshops to work as well, and I enjoyed that because it's honing your skills on... we do fault finding out at sea and do the the fast stuff, but when you get a chance to fix the stuff that people are sending back for you is also enhances our trade. Did that, a bunch of other things, posted around, spent some time in Sydney at our logistics area. Meanwhile, I'm playing my favourite sport, playing rugby, so I was back to doing that. Yeah, just I had a bunch of different postings, but it was still around trade. It was trade postings. Yeah.
And as you said, at this time, still like there's things going on. Like I know there was deployments for the army to Somalia, and then as we're getting further on down towards where things ramp up, that East Timor happens. And are you guys in that as well?
We are. Well, there's been I forget how many deployments, but we've had a presence up until just recently of a Navy ship as part of from 1990 on, but we were doing that beforehand. You were sending Indian Nation deployments because that area is always volatile. But we had a ship up there in the area. We cut it down. We only had the one, but continuously right through, even until 2001 after September 11, we still had one ship up there, and then we got a few more.
So, and we were just talking off air before we started that, as we said, when you're out at sea, you guys are the firefighters. So, what's that like? What's day-to-day life like on a ship?
Well, with aviation alone, we've got our flying. We work flying into that. Normally, as a maintainer, we're there a couple of hours before to make sure it's all good to go. Get the aircraft out on the deck. Aircrew will be doing their planning, putting in their flight plans, coming up with their program. So that's our day-to-day. Then after it, working on aircraft, fixing things that need to do that. In around that, the ship has to practice, so you'll have a fake fire, so to speak, say in the engine space, and the ship has to react a certain way to that. So break it down, we're running repair bases, so an FFG has 4 repair bases. Aviation has their own, so you're there in case something happens, you can go and keep the ship. The idea is to keep the ship floating. And if need be, keep the ship fighting. That's the CO, and that decides what extent you need to keep it going. Do you just need to keep it floating, or do you need to keep it floating and fighting? So you'll do that. You'll practice firefighting. So they'll have a compartment where they might let a smoke off, so it simulates fire. You'll go and do that, or electrical run, all those things, and you'll be practicing that from time to time. And 3 meals a day. We have magic chefs. We don't have to cook our own. We're not digging holes and we're not cooking our own.
That's it.
And we have chefs who, I can't say more highly. 3 squared meals, and they are nice, and a good variety.
And you throw in your PT as well, a bit of PT?
PT, different times, you do different things around. Have the gym, you can do that. Well, it's just relaxing, going down into your particular mess and watching TV, watching movies. Before internet, you had a ship would put a movie on, and you'd have to watch the same. It'll take you nearly a whole day to watch a whole movie, because you might only get 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but you watch it. And you have recreate, and you sleep.
And then you do... Like, I know I've spoken to a couple of Navy veteran mates that go, the thing that I look to is Sea Patrol.
Yes.
And,
before that was Patrol Boat.
Yeah, Patrol Boat, So, and for me, watching Sea Patrol, it's like, okay, you got Dog Watch, you got all these, First Watch and all these things. And I talked to a mate and I said, is the Navy what you see on Sea Patrol? And he said, mate, I hate to burst your bubble. It's not Sea Patrol.
No, probably Patrol Boat was a closer. People that don't remember, that was a series that came out in the early 80s.
Yeah, right.
You can watch it on YouTube.
Okay, yeah,
because I get them up every now and again. No, it's more that, and I'm in to use the word, a slightly different boat. That's not a pun, but aviation, we sometimes run it, and we get in trouble because we run a slightly different routine sometimes. And our world revolves around flying. And when the aircraft's flying, the ship revolves around flying, because you've got to have crash boats ready. The ship has to maintain course, a certain speed. You have to have certain winds across the deck, all those other things. So we do that. Dog watchers, I don't know anything about that. But we work long hours.
Yeah, of course.
Don't get me wrong, but we don't do that.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, 9/11 happens, and I ask every veteran that I ever get on from any service what they remember of that day, and did you think, or what do you remember of that day, and did you think that we would be involved in our longest war from that day?
Well, I was actually sitting in the harbour at Guadalcanal. I was on HMAS Melbourne, ship's flight. We had 2 Seahawks on the back. I was part of the ship's flight with the Seahawk this time, but We had 2 aircraft on the back of HMAS Melbourne sitting. We were doing peacekeeping because at the time the rebels and everything over there were causing, and we had to be able to evacuate people. So we had a constant presence in the Solomon Islands. Mm-hmm. So we were in Honiara Harbour. We come in every Friday, get fueled up. I think a fella came out with a boat and a 44-gallon drum and tried to fill a big warship. But we'd be in Honiara Harbour, and what I would do, because I was looking after the aircraft's paperwork and making sure everything was up to speed while the troops did what they needed to do. And I used to email my wife every night, who was also a Navy girl in a different trade than mine. And she sent me an email to go, the planes just flew into the World Trade Center. Now, put into perspective, we didn't have really TV because we didn't have satellite. And we're in the middle of the jungle. Because the day before, what we do, every week we'd fly into Henderson Field in Guadalcanal. Mm-hmm. Where, funny enough, there was lots of fighting going on during World War II. Yep. We'd go in there, get all our victuals for the ship and vertrep them back to the ship with the aircraft. So the day before, we were in jungle. Then we're hearing about this thing happen in New York. And as I'm doing my paper, she sent me that. And then next minute, she says, another one's flown into it. And like, so I've grabbed my flight command. We were heading towards the CO, just as signals were starting to come in about that. And at that stage, we knew the world had changed. Yeah. Because this had never happened before. And that's taken it to big time. And you knew the Americans weren't going to take a backward step when something like that happened to them. At the time, HMAS Melbourne was actually getting deployed on a world deployment. They were going to go around the world to do different things. And as we're going back, they're talking about this, that and the other, and they didn't mention the aviation crew. Mm-hmm. And I put my hand up and said to the CEO, I said, sir, you didn't mention aviation. He said, well, there's a reason why I didn't, is because when you get back, you and the flight commander are going up to see the fleet commander and you'll find out.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we went, okay. We got back to Sydney on Melbourne, went up and saw the fleet commander, or the maritime commander at the time, I think he was called, but same thing. Mm. And he said, you're going back, get ready, you're going on HMAS Sydney and you're deploying straight up to the Gulf under a different circumstance. Mm-hmm. So, because they looked at Afghanistan was the issue. Mm. And obviously Afghanistan's landlocked, but they've still got links with Iraq, Iran, that whole area. That's why we went up there too. Yep. To stop oil smuggling and all those other things that make money. Mm. So we went back, told the troops that get ready, tell everyone we're getting ready to move all our gear. They basically backed Sydney up to Melbourne and we just basically threw our stuff over.
Yeah, right.
So got the aircraft back up to speed, went straight into the workups for on HMAS Sydney. And that was 2001, end of 2001, yeah.
So that happens pretty quick. Like,
yep.
1 minute you're on peacekeeping operation, and then
in the jungle,
you're in the jungle, and then you're hearing this, the World Trade, as you said, and as you quite rightly said, that the world changed that day.
Absolutely,
like, it's never been the same since. And how's your mindset at that point? Because you've been there before. You've been in 90 and 91. As you said, you're paid to go and be put in harm's way. How's the mindset at that point?
For me, I found a certain calmness. We talked about being calm earlier, because I'd done it before. And obviously every time I've done a deployment to that area, things changed. Mm. But I had an idea of the structure and the day-to-day, how things work. Yep. And we just went into what we needed to do. And
how long was that deployment for when you went up there?
That was probably about 6 months.
Yeah, okay.
Give or take, you know.
And are you monitoring and sort of, my brain goes to patrolling those waterways?
Well, it was a whole different thing because there was still oil being produced in places like Kuwait and Iraq. Mm-hmm. Iraq's got a very small port area, but the whole one side of the Persian Gulf is Iran.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there's international waters, you've got contested international waters, then you've got Iran waters, and they're all run by different people. Yep. So what you would actually find is there was oil smugglers trying to, two things, oil smuggling, so they were trying to get out to come down to, because once they made it to Dubai, they could sell the oil. Mm. Also date oil, funny enough.
Oh, right.
That was worth a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and what you're trying to prevent is it being sold so they can buy arms. So
explain to me how that works, because are you guys are you attached to the US at this, like, in their fleet, or is this?
We're we're still one of our own, but it's being run out of Bahrain. Bahrain was is it the Fifth Fleet? I think it's the fifth. Don't quote me. I think it's the Fifth Fleet up there, and they basically run everything that's happened in the Gulf.
Yep.
So you're part of a task force, but we get tasked to do different things. And what you would do when you needed to, you'd come down and get fuel and fuel, oils, anything you need, and victuals in an area where all the supply ships, which were predominantly American.
Yeah, okay. And who are you, like, say if you catch these guys like running this oil, like, do you guys have the power to arrest them?
Yes, we do. And
do you hand them over to...
Hand them over to the Americans.
Yeah, right, yeah. So
and as I said, there's all these contested waters. Now that's for our navigators to sort out, but you can see it. And we would always send... Same with the helicopter was exactly the same. It had certain areas it could fly in and fly out of. Yeah. So it's very strict as far as... That's why old GPSs and all those are very important.
Yeah, of course.
Because if you stray over, you're in someone else's airspace, and they've got the right to do what they need to do.
Can blow, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight. Navigators, good on them. They earn their
money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that and each time I've gone up, and we'll talk about it a bit further when I went the next time. They were all had different roles. The first one in 1991 was screening the Midway and others, but we're also stopping arms smuggling and a whole heap of other things. This one was stopping oil smuggling and date oil and other things that could be sold to buy arms, and plus anything that went wrong. But as you come down past Iran, they've got a couple of different types of guards that come down there. You've got good and bad ones, some that are bribed, some that aren't. And you've got to really stick to waters because there's contested waters that they can argue over.
And is that also too, because, being on the seas, is there... pirates that are trying to get into that lucrative market as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Not so much in the Persian Gulf because it's so dangerous, but you go to other areas, talk about back in the Red Sea, around Somalia, the Malacca Straits down around where Singapore is and parts of Indonesia, all those areas, there's still piracy goes on there.
Yeah.
Not so much up there because there's a lot of things that aren't good for pirates.
Yeah. So you come back from another deployment, and this is where your career just absolutely goes nuts, and just deployment after deployment. And in that same year, you deployed to the Solomon Islands. What are you doing in the Solomons?
Once again, it was about peacekeeping because we had presence. We had the Solomon Islands. Very disrupted, and there were still rebels happening there, and there was what they called, there's government was still very unstable. There was a whole heap of things happening, but we had Australians and others that were deployed there. So our job was, if we needed to evacuate those people.
Oh, right, okay.
So you just sail through the Guadalcanal, the whole island chain that's around, famous in World War II of the Iron Bottom Sounds and all those other things, and a lot of fighting went on in that area. There's still remnants of it around. But that's what we do. And then I said earlier, we come in once a week we fly into Henderson to get fuel and to get victuals, food and all that. Because the Herc had come in, then we'd unload, put on the Seahawk, take it back to the ship.
So is that also to show a presence? Like
Absolutely.
We're here, we're supporting the army's on the ground, but we are here.
Yep. And there was also, we had other special forces were involved, doing undercover, everything they did around that.
So you come back from that, and as you say, busy year because you deployed twice in that year.
It gets better.
Oh no, you get this. As I said, like when you sent me through your bio, I was just like, holy crap, and another one, and another one, and another one, and at this point, because as you said, you married a Navy girl.
Yep.
How's that going, mate? Because you guys are. Like you're deployed, and is she deploying at the same time?
Not at the same time, but she's deployed.
Yeah.
Because leading up to that, just after that, we come back in. What are we up to now? 2001, 2002. I went back on a ship and we did a couple other just little deployments. But my wife, in her trade, she deployed to Timor.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't deploy. She deployed to Timor with her team. And at that stage, I think the kids were 18 months old. So I was at home with the kids.
Oh, right.
So, look, the Navy's been good to it. Send us away, but they'd always make sure one of us had a shore posting and one of us was at sea. Although we did have a couple of times where ships have come alongside. We've done handovers on gangways. There's the keys to the car. The kids are with grandma and things like that because once again, different trades. And the ship needed a different capability.
Yep.
So we've done handovers, but we've tried to keep the kids as stable as possible. We had a deployment together. We've been Albatross, other things, but we had a posting together down at HMAS Cerberus down the track, where I was the senior warrant officer of the ship's warrant officer or command warrant officer of Cerberus. At the same time, my wife was the command warrant officer of or ship's warrant officer of recruit school.
Oh wow!
So we were the two senior. So it was interesting posting there. So we did a few things, but as far as deploying on ships, because the wife went on to do other deployments after that, we tried to balance so we both had a good career.
And for you, was that, as you say, when she deployed to East Timor, was that good for you to just take a bit of just actually have a bit of pause time? Because
it always is. It's always good, although it didn't with 18-month-old twins. I got twin boy and a girl, so they're interesting. They're now big 27-odd-year-olds, and my boy's 6'4" or something. So. But it was interesting because it was gave me a real appreciation on both sides. Both of us have got appreciations on both sides.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you have that little period of your home and looking after the kids, and then in 2004, this deployment is one, and I actually went in and actually read up on this, and I know this is a very hard thing to talk about. This was not an ordinary deployment for you, and if you feel comfortable sharing with us,
I do, because I find it more comfortable because I talk about it, and I can relive. In a good, because I'm in control, so I'm comfortable to do it. Yeah,
and I'll bring it to the listeners' attention.
Please,
the USS Firebolt incident. Can you tell us what happened with this incident?
All right, I was on HMAS Stuart at that stage. We deployed on would be a normal routine deployment. We're back in a war footing because remember 2003 went back into Iraq. So the focus moved from Afghanistan around to Iraq again.
Yeah, history will show that.
And a lot of our job was to, when in that area, was to look after. There's two big oil rigs up there, A-Bot and K-Bot, which are literally a K or so off Kuwait. So much oil goes through that. You can have, size of. I'm sure the listeners would understand the size of a super tanker. We can watch 4 super tankers turn up, get alongside. A couple of days later, they're high in the water when they first get there. They're low, waiting for high tide. And they head off. 4 super tankers in a couple of days. And that's each one. So that shows how much oil is still flowing from the Middle East area. So we'd only hadn't long gone up there. Now, there was almost an attitude with some people that it was a dash for cash. You're going to get some money, you're going to do all this, because they hadn't seen any incident happen, whereas I had seen leading up to it. And on this afternoon of the 24th of April, Anzac Eve, for us. So we had a plan. We're going to get up for dawn service the following day, do all our normal commemorations that's appropriate for that day. And we go out in the afternoon with our aircraft, do a patrol. So what would happen, you would have us, we're in charge of a small group of American patrol boats, same as our-sized patrol boats, and they're a cross between Navy and Coast Guard type thing. So we being the big daddy warship, we're in charge of that particular group. In the afternoon, all the fishing boats would come out of Kuwait and other areas, and they would come towards the oil rigs, good fishing, because the land would rise, all good fishing. So we would send a rib, so 7.5 metre rigid inflatable with 10 boarding party on board, hearts and minds stuff. We'd go out and visit all, make sure everything's good. This particular day, USS Firebolt, they sent their rib out. But we still had our aircraft up in the air patrolling, making sure it's good, 4-hour flight. We did that every afternoon. And this one afternoon, something happened. One of the dhows, the fishing boats, expanded itself. It was acting erratically, and one of the rib went over to have a look at it, and it exploded. They let it off. You imagine a wooden boat, lots of shrapnel, lots of wooden shrapnel. So what had happened is we were on the flight deck waiting on the aircraft to come back. You could see the puff of smoke off. The ship turned towards the smoke, as it would. We're on the flight deck. We looked over, and I reckon 800 metres behind us, there's a fast boat moving towards one of the oil rigs. So we figured that was a feint, and they're sending these fast boats. And it was fired upon, and it exploded. And you could, where we were, you could feel a bit of the repercussion of that. And then a second one come across, and it was even closer. And it was fired on, exploded, and we could really feel it. They were aiming at the oil rigs. And then all hell broke loose, because at that stage, the aircraft landed back on, we reconfigured it, fueled it up, tasked it. They went out looking for survivors of this of the American rib. Now, sadly, out of 10 people on the rib, 2 died instantly. 1 died, I'll talk a bit later on, died later on in this. And the rest were all shrapnel wounds, hearing, and all that side of it. And we had our air crewmen in the back of the aircraft. They're trained to winch, to jump in the water. Mm-hmm. There was one fella struggling, he jumped in the water. And in all the confusion, we thought we'd lost him. And he ended up getting a Medal of Gallantry, and quite deserved with that side of it. So we're doing all that, and also trying to land on and get people on board and do all this. And by that stage, the oil rigs were only armed with private security, basically, not with anyone else. Aircrafts come back, trying to patch everyone up and get the dead bodies and all that side of it. And there was one particular fella who sadly he passed away. He got brought into the hangar, and it was really hard because we're trying to. For some of the young fellas, it was very new to them, dealing with this type of stuff. So for me, as I was the chief in charge of the flight, trying to talk them through a lot of things. I said, you're going to see a lot of things, and that's how. Well, we brought this fella who was shot, lots of wounds. He died on us 5 times in the hangar. I was with the medic, holding him together, doing all that, and 5 times he died on us in the hangar. Got him into the aircraft, reconfigured the aircraft again. Our observer, or our flight captain at that stage, he was also trained how to winch, so he'd gone over into the back because we didn't know where a crew he was, so he had to bring back home his old training, which I think is a great, just showed, didn't even stop. They flew him into Kuwait, and we got the notification that he died. Coming back from Kuwait, they got followed by a sandstorm, so there was that going on as well. So it's all happening. They've landed on. We put the aircraft away. Meanwhile, we were getting aircraft in from the carrier Theodore Roosevelt, I think. Don't quote me. I forget which one it was. They were landing on to drop Marines on to go onto the platform, but also try and pick up wounded. So we're trying to bring dead bodies up, wounded. There was a whole heap of things going on in one hit type of thing. There's into the hangar. There's 2 passageways that can lead into the hangar from down below. And I nearly had a heart attack myself, so metaphorically, because they were bringing the dead bodies up and the wounded at the same time from different holes. So I had to stop one, because that's the last thing they wanted to see is their mates. And meanwhile, they're deafened from the explosion. There's wounds. You can tell which side of the boat they're on from their wounds. We're bringing up, trying to get him onto the ship so they can get taken back to the hospitals on the aircraft carrier. And we're hearing about this fella who sadly passed away. And I mean, we work in the hangar in red lights, and you work in red lights so you keep your night vision. So when you're out there, so all night we're working. Finally, all finish up, we wrap up, everything's done, and I like to debrief the troops when we're finished. And I think that's appropriate in any workplace. That you need to do that and make sure they're all right and all that. We turned the white lights on, and they looked at me absolutely horrified. I'd been working all night with blood all over. I didn't realise I was covered. I didn't even realise because everything had happened. Now,
you were just in that moment.
In that moment, we had red lights, so we didn't know. You just did what you did. What made me so proud about that night is I can talk about my troops, the way they acted, but everyone acted, it just happened. All our training come in and everyone acted. No one panicked, no one did. We talked back to being calm. Everything was calm. We had a calm area and it all worked. And for my aviation troops, I just can't speak more highly. They worked all night on the flight deck, worked in conditions that weren't good. The rest of the ship did, from the CO down. And CO's a great man. I'm still very good friends with the CO. But everyone worked on good, and that was an incident that opened people's eyes up to say, this is a war zone. It's not just a trip to get some money and maybe a medal or two. That things happen. This is not a good place to be.
And for you, you'd been, and I'm pausing here to gain my thoughts.
Of course,
You'd been exposed to death in your career, but had you been exposed to death in that scale and the wounded of that scale before?
Not to that wounded. Not as been to car crashes, I've been exposed, we've rescued people at sea and all those other things, but not to this extent. For me, once again, training, we're all taught how to do it.
Yep.
From every force is taught how to do your triage, how to do all that, and how to treat people in the first aid circumstance. What got it with me was as we're dealing, and the medics doing our medics, from the doctor and our medics, fantastic job. All taught it, but when they put into practice, they did. Once again, couldn't be prouder of what they did to that. When I'm there, this fella's hand fell out come loose, and he was wearing a wedding ring. So for me, that's the reality of it. Suddenly, this person wasn't just someone we're practicing to do. He was a real person when his hand flopped out, and there's a wedding ring on it. So for me, that's my memory of the reality of it. Yeah, I know it's that's the way I react, but it was a simple thing. But to me, a simple gold band,
of course,
gave reality to this person's real.
Yeah, he's a real person, and he's got a family that now they've got to deal with, that they've lost their loved one. And did they ever work out who was responsible for that?
Oh, they knew who was responsible. It was and then they know, I didn't know, but it was part of the Iraq push at that. There's still terrorist organisations who wanted those 2 oil rigs. And as I said, if they shut that down, the oil will shut down around the world because of the amount of oil that flows through those 2 particular places. So,
and for you, after that happens and you do your debrief, and how are you travelling mentally at that point? Are you just focused on compartmentalising?
Compartmentalise. At that stage, we're still deployed. We've still got things to do, and we're occupied all day. Because as and people listening to this will know, if you've got a space, you'll fill it with something.
Yep.
And if you've got not good stuff to fill it with, that's what it'll be filled with. But day-to-day work on ship, we were doing what we're doing. It wasn't until years down the track that things clicked in, that I had issues. I was actually back at sea again, funny enough, as a ship's warrant officer this time in 2006. I was on HMAS Melbourne again as the command warrant officer. And I was doing a promotion ceremony up in the ops room. And I'm there reading it. I've got the commanding officer next to me, and I started to burble, he said. And then I started, like I was reading it backwards, and I went into a place.
Yep.
And I was going through all sorts of things, like thought I had bloody epilepsy, all those things. I didn't, but that's what they thought, all these things. It wasn't until, I think, about 2016 that they clicked. That was a PTSD incident that I had no control over whatsoever. So they're things that come out later on.
Yeah, of course. And do you, at that point too, when that happens, do you email your wife and say, hey, look, there was an incident, we're all okay? Oh, yeah.
No, I do that. I'm probably thankful that she's in a position where her particular trade had an idea. They knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And one of our things that myself and the flight commander sat down and did was pump out a big signal on everything that went on. Because we did think, as you know, aviation's very strict on what we can do, and there's rules and regs and all that. There was times that we made engineering-based decisions and warfare-based decisions that went outside rules, but we justified, did it all. Yeah. And we rated a big signal, so that was cathartic for a bit. My wife got to see that because of where she was.
Yep.
And, just about talking, that's all it is. And
that deployment continues.
Yeah.
Was that at the start?
That was right at the start.
Yeah, wow. So
what it actually did was it actually set a whole different precedence. People are in a whole different... I've used the word footing quite a bit in this talk, but it changed the way they think. Because it was no longer the dash for cash and the medals, because this is real. So for the rest of the deployment, we were quite vigilant, to the point of being hyper vigilant, but we were there and doing. Suddenly there was a realisation what we're there for, and the ship worked well. We did a lot of great things after that.
And as you mentioned, so because how long was that? Was that another 6 months?
About 6 months, give or take, yeah.
That and. This is what I like to get across to the non-military listener, that, and also whenever I have a first responder on as well, it's not a normal... This is like these jobs are not normal 9 to 5
not
jobs.
At all. No.
They can go from 0 to 100 very quickly, and then they can
or sit at 90 for a long time.
100%.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Like, that's at the start of the deployment. That is a 6 month deployment, and you're, as we are as well, just mission focused.
Absolutely,
that's what you got to do. Like, it's part of the job. We all know that.
And you know every day what you're going to do. What I didn't mention, in between the 2001-2002 trip on Sydney, I come back and then my wife deployed.
Yeah.
She deployed on HMAS Darwin
Yep.
at the end of 2002 into 2003, and she was up there when everything kicked off at Iraq in 2003. So she did that, basically come back, and then I went back on HMAS Stuart, then I went away.
Far out. And then, so you come back from that trip, and very, very challenging trip for you and your guys.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, that you later on realised that PTSD comes into, and of course that is a traumatic. Of course, you're
Absolutely,
going to have something from that.
Yeah.
That happens, and then what is like, as you mentioned, 2006. You're now that you have that moment.
Yep.
Are you then just like postings again and moving around?
Yeah, well,
what's happening?
when I got back on Stuart, I went on to Canberra, just to add another one in there.
Yeah.
And we did a HMAS Canberra, the FFG, not the new LHD we have.
Yep.
We did a paying off trip, so we did Southeast Asia.
Oh, right.
So in a way, it was a way to decompress, because basically being with Seahawks, and we were basically up to the Gulf, training to go to the Gulf or coming back. There was for a long, long time. So for us, when myself and the flight commander looked at it, and there was no one on this thing, so we said a way to decompress was to do Canberra's paying off trip, and we did Singapore, Korea, Guam, all the great places we used to do.
Yep.
And that was a way to decompress from that trip. And then I come off and almost went back again as a ship's warrant officer on Melbourne, as a senior warrant officer on the ship.
Yeah, right. And you, this is where you bring in too, and this part of your career where you went to service.
Yes.
And what was that like now, going to, as you said, at the start of your career, you didn't go to service, but now you're a senior. Yeah. You're a senior sailor now. Like, what was that like?
Well, I stepped away from my keen aviation at the end of 2005, and that's when I went into the, for want of better words, the executive role.
Yep.
Like equivalent people understand the RSM role. That's what I went into. So I left aviation.
Yep.
And I did a bunch of things before that. I did CO of HMAS, on HMAS Melbourne as a ship's warrant officer or command warrant officer. Then I went to Cerberus.
Yeah, right.
So it was quite interesting to go there because I understand structure and did all that. And funny enough, I knew all the things that the young trainees were going to do. Because I would catch the young trainees doing things, and they say, "Sir, you look older. How did you know all that?" I said, "I wasn't born yesterday." They tried to do all the things that I tried to do as a young apprentice, and funny enough, we knew it all.
Yep.
So that was a really really good role, because you're actually HMAS service where our sailors come through. So you got to mould people who are going out to the fleet.
Yep.
And just also the activities. A very, very big and busy place. You get to know all. You got the run of the ship. You can walk around, talk to people. You can do all sorts of things. Got to do a bunch of good things. I went to the MCG to watch the Anzac Day match and up in the boardroom. A few other things. That's good. I had really good COs, very good XOs.
Yep.
And I got there first, and then my wife joined us. She then she went to as the senior warrant officer at recruit school. So I was coming into recruit school, doing 11 weeks. Then they would go to Cerberus to do their trade training or their category training. So we had a bit of the day before they passed out of recruit school, my wife would invite myself, other warrant officers or chiefs or whatever, to recruit school to introduce us. And we'd be standing there next to each other, and we both have Campbell on our name bars. And she would say, "See this warrant officer here? He's the senior warrant officer at Cerberus. See Campbell. See my name, Campbell. We'll be in the same car tonight, and we'll be driving home and having dinner together tonight. Do you understand?" And when you come in, when you go to Cerberus next week, they passed that on the Friday, had a weekend, went to Cerberus side, still in the same base basically, but they were treated different because they were trainees now, no longer recruits. But some of us still try it on. They'd still say, "Oh, the command warrant officer recruit school said I could do this," and I give them 3 chances. Say, "Yeah, sure. You know I can ring her."
Yeah.
And in fact, one of them tried it. We were standing under our photos at the main gate.
Yeah.
And I said, was that your ship's warrant officer, pointing at my wife's photo? "Who's that next to you?" "Oh, is that you?" Oh. But that was interesting. In fact, we had to have two different ringtones on our phones because we put our phones on the sideboard as we went in the house.
Yep.
And I listened to it and I'd go, "It's one of yours." Or my wife would go, "It's one of yours."
Yeah.
So that was very good posting and very good grounding because it was a big base.
And at that point, did you, when you joined when you were 15, obviously promotions are going to come, but did you see yourself that you would be a senior?
Never.
A senior sailor?
As a young fella, I can remember, and I've got some good mates who we all talk about this. When I left Narimba at the end of 1983, then got posted down here. I remember there was a group of us and a chief got us aside and said, "You bloody hopeless, you'll never get anywhere." And I look back at that, and I don't know whether he meant it or whether it was a motivational tool. But over the years I bring it up, and there's me, I know one of our fellows went on to be a senior captain, changed over to officer.
Yep.
In my class. We had another fellow who was deployed, he went overseas as the American, part of their American logistics team. And we look back at each other going, "We'll never make it."
Yeah.
And we're there. So I never envisaged it. When I got there, I can look backwards and go, "Oh, it's been a journey to get to here." Because for a sailor, one of the truths, being the Command War Officer or RSM is one of your pinnacles.
100%. And for you, as you say, and this, I love getting and talking to veterans and also first responders about this, is leadership.
Yep.
There's good leadership, there's bad leadership.
Absolutely.
And for you, how did you find your way to... Because, as you know, leadership, you can't be friends with everyone.
No.
You're the meat and the sandwich
Absolutely.
between the higher
Yep.
up and
Yep.
below. How did you juggle that and having those hats as you went through?
A certain amount of calmness.
Yep.
I think I had good mentors along the way. We had bad mentors, and I use that in the back of my mind as I'll never want to be like that person, because we talked about in the early 80s there were some bad mentors.
100%.
And whilst it did happen, those bad things, and I put that in the back of my mind to revert and said I'll never be like that. But I've had good mentors. I had one in particular who would take me and teach me their job. And he always said, "You've got to get the point that you train your next person below you to take your job over."
Yep.
With training, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
They said you've got to you train your subordinate to make yourself redundant.
Yep.
And someone above should be doing the same, and that's the way we should progress. So you constantly train.
And I love that because, and I've seen it too, especially in my organisation, is that they don't want to train you.
No.
They don't. I've got here, and it's like, well...
And they want to protect their jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that's counterproductive because we've got to keep moving. If you want your particular branch, your service, your trade, your front line, whatever you happen to be, you've got to progress.
Yeah, because otherwise you get stale because you're not progressing and you leave and go somewhere
and
else.
The system dies.
That's right.
Yeah, that's how we see different organisations. They die because people hang on to things. But I always took that with me, that said train people to make yourself redundant.
Yeah. And also too, would you say that you take the ego out of it as well?
Absolutely,
Because there's a lot of people that do walk around with status and ego they're attached to that, like ego is attached to that role and I know with leaders, some leaders, that their ego is the death of them because literally it's what destroys them.
Absolutely. As you go through, you'll come across different people and sadly there's people out there who will step on others to get to where they want to get.
Yeah.
And they lose those people. We've had good people leave Defence Force because they've seen that. They don't want to do it. And unfortunately, when the good people leave, it leaves a glut of bad people. And it sours the organisation.
Well, you've only got to look now, mate, in that the whole Defence Force in itself now, it is in a lull at the moment because recruitment is at an all-time low in all services. It's not just Army, it's Air Force, it's Navy.
It's across the board.
It's across the board.
Yeah.
And why do you think, well, I mean, you joined up in peacetime where we are going back into a heightened, the next little period's going
of course,
it's going to be
we may be a different target, but we're still moving. Yeah.
But why do you feel that joining up now it's not seen as what it once was that you joined the forces?
Well, when I joined, one of the things that sucked me in. I use that word suck me in. It didn't suck me in.
Yeah.
We were under a different superannuation scheme. We were under the old, people who on here may remember DFRDB.
Yeah, DFRDB, yep.
Or if you step back with some of the older people, is DFRB. Mm-hmm. But DFRDB and the suck was to suck me in was do 20 years and you get this pension. Mm-hmm. And as a 15-year-old going, I can retire at 35. We all know that's reality. When you start getting mortgages and kids and it doesn't quite gel.
Yep.
So that was one of the drivers is long term. But that's just not defence. You'll find, whereas maybe when I joined up and others, we may do one, maybe two jobs, whereas now dozens of jobs within their very short term. What I know, we did a lot of try to selling that, yep, we know we're going to get people in for a very short period, but they leave and come back, bring skills back. That was the idea. You might get them back a couple of times. But I think that's what's missing. People aren't... it's not... Being into defence is not as big as what it used to be. If we step right back, you think World War I, World War II, 100% of the country was involved, whether it be whole towns, they deploy. Yeah. And then the women have to take over, or vice versa, all those things that went on. Yeah. Then tape it off a bit, talk about Korea, still a large involvement because we still had a bit of a war hangover. Vietnam, still large, not as much. Now, you've got to think there's probably 0.2% of Australia actually dedicated to defence, whether they be in a defence industry or a family of defence member. That's where it sits. So that's where it sits in people's minds. Whereas you look at that progression, and I think that's part of it. It's not in the forefront.
And that's a really good point that you touch on, is that, as you say, you look back to the First World War, 46,000 families lost a loved one.
Yep.
World War II, I think it was, don't quote me on it, but I think it was 60,000.
A great number.
A great number of people.
Yep.
Korea, we lost, I think, 333, I think, and then, or don't quote me on these numbers,
of course.
Vietnam, again, 533, and then as you're going through the wars, and then you get to Iraq, Afghanistan, 41 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq, so the numbers are getting smaller of the people that the wars are affecting because our training's getting better, but also, as you say, they're not world wars, or
you're fighting for not a war. You're learning to fight for the war.
Correct.
So in that particular circumstance, rather than fighting a world war where you're going to have a bunch of different theatres.
Correct. Yeah, and I think maybe it might swing back around where service will come, because there's no better, and we'll get into it later on in the podcast. Service has made you and set your life up what you do now, and it's the same for me as a first responder. Yep. It's giving of service to others and greater than yourself.
Absolutely,
that's what service
is. Yeah.
And that's why we did it, and that's why you continue to do it. You're now not in the Defence Force, but you're serving in another way.
That's right. Yeah.
Same for me. I'm still serving, and it's because of the service to give to others, and that feeling of when you help someone. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for you, so your career, so we're at Cerberus now, and then in 2013, and as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, 2013, you were awarded an O.A.M. for your contribution to the fleet arms and leadership as a command warrant officer of HMAS Cerberus and is it Creswell. What was that like to receive such an honour?
Well, I'll say it's very hard to describe, but I can say it's an absolute honour to put in a nutshell. What happened? I went from HMAS Cerberus, then got posted to HMAS Creswell, which is where our officers join at. Yep. But I think I got posted there as the once again the command warrant officer, but I was also teaching the chiefs and warrant officer. I was a senior instructor for chiefs and warrant officer promotion courses. Well, I was passing on my good stuff while still being the ship's warrant officer side of it, and I was there, and my wife was deployed. She was on HMAS Parramatta doing. At that stage, we still had the boats coming down, and she was doing a lot of that stuff up north. So she was deployed. I was at home, and I'd taken, I think, 3 months long service leave. So I was just at home kids are at school, all that. And I get this letter, and it's got the Office of the Governor General on there. I'm going, oh, what's this about? And I've opened it up and I was there was no one at home except the dog. And she was ecstatic to hear from me. She's happy whenever I talk to her.
Yep.
But, I read this thing and I was lost for words. I just absolutely I was proud. I was just something, one of those, like the pinnacle of what you do. And I read it and it was for my contribution to the Fleet Air Arm, which I'm proud to do. I'm proud to be part. I still call myself part of the Fleet Air Arm.
Yep.
And for my leadership at both Cerberus and Creswell. So we had two major areas, I said, where the sailors come in and where the officers come in. So to have that tied in, it was just absolutely one of those things. And when I was come for my investiture, I had done it at with the Governor of New South Wales.
Okay.
Marie Bashir.
Yep.
Lovely lady. And interesting, why that was special for me, and I took the kids along and all that side of it, because in 2012, my wife was given an OAM.
Oh, wow.
And at one stage, we were the only two married warrant officers who both OAMs.
Yeah, wow.
And I went with her to support her when she was given her OAM, invested with her OAM at, once again, at the Government House in Sydney. And so that's what was very special.
Of course.
So we got two kids who apparently everyone goes to Government House and gets a medal.
And for you, because that's obviously nominated by your peers.
Absolutely.
And like that must, as you say, very hard to put into words, but very proud that your peers have seen you, that you have gone above and beyond to get that recognition.
Absolutely, and that's something, once again, hard to put into words, that the people have that respect for you that they would do that, because they don't tell you, the people who know the process, you don't know. And you get the letter about, I think it comes an email now, but you used to get a letter about 2 weeks before and you could not tell anyone.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't even, and they would never tell you who put it in and all that side of it.
Yep.
You got an idea, but it was extremely proud to walk in and wear that blue and gold medallion or medal.
Yeah. Well, mate, there's not many that, it's a very hard award to get. And,
absolutely, and to have being pride of place to be able to sit next to my wife, and we're both OAMs with post nominals at the end of our name. And once again, we've got kids who just think it happens to everyone. Doesn't all mum and dads get those things? Yeah,
that's right. So that happens, mate. And then the next part of your career, you're getting close to, as you say, like 35 years. So in 2017, and what's happening, because I don't just want to brush over that, like what's happening in the next couple of years leading up to
all right, interesting. This might involve going back to sea. In 2014, I think it was. Yep. Yeah, 2014, my wife was on HMAS Parramatta. Now, she needed to come off early because she needed to get posted to as the Command Warrant Officer of HMAS Albatross down here in Nowra.
Yep.
They didn't have anyone to go, so I'll go. So I actually took over from her as the Ship's Warrant Officer on HMAS Parramatta. I was on there about a year. Yeah, right. On Parramatta. And I said, this young sailor come up to me and said, how come you took over from your wife? And I said, the Navy hasn't got much money. And I said, they've got Campbell on the state board. Now, the state board is where you say you're whether you're in and out of the ship and things like that. Had Campbell on there. I said, they're that short, they couldn't afford Dymo label for the new Campbell. And this young sailor looked at it and said, no, I'm sorry. No, it's not true. It's just I happened to be there. And it worked out good. So I went from there. Then I got actually posted on to back to HMAS Melbourne as the ship's warrant officer. But I had sadly another incident where things happened, and so I come off that. Yeah. I went from there off the ship just for a little bit of leave, come back, and then I was posted, the best posting ever to finish on. I was the Command Warrant Officer for the Navy's divisional system. Oh, right. Now, for people in the Navy would understand, but others might not understand. The divisional system in the Navy is a unique... We have our line of command, and that's sort of chain of command. But the Navy has a unique divisional system that dates back to Nelson days, where each department you would start from and look after your troops. I'm not saying they don't, but it's a unique system called the divisional system where you look after your division and make sure all that things are in place, that side of it. So I was put in charge of the Navy's divisional system. I figured, as a young apprentice, I was a divisional problem, and I went to being the head of it, where I got to write doctrine, I got to introduce systems to make sure everyone's looked after properly. And I would go over once a week and have a sit down with the Chief of Navy, just him and I, and we would delve into our Naval's divisional system and make sure everything's working.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I finished on.
Yeah, beautiful. What a rounded career.
Absolutely,
mate.
and by that stage I'd done everything, and I mean, obviously Warrant Officer Navy would be a nice thing, but I'd done everything I needed to, I wanted to. And something came out, and I just got to a point, and they were starting to offer redundancies for people. And by that stage, I'd done over the 35-year mark, heading into the 36-year mark. And I was offered what's known as a MIRE, a management-initiated early retirement. So I got that. They'd offered that to me, and I looked at it, and there was good payout and things like that. And I'd done everything I could do, what I wanted to do. So I left at that stage, ticked everything off.
Yeah. And 2017, that's
2017, yeah.
So 35, nearly 36 years.
Yep.
And this is where I always talk to veterans and first responders. That's all you've known from when you were 15 years old.
Yep.
You're institutionalised.
Of course, yeah. Still am to a point.
Yeah. How did you find the transition, and was it hard going from being in the Navy to now I'm a civilian?
All right. When at that stage, it wasn't too hard. I wasn't in a good place to start with.
Yeah.
Stepping back, when I took the redundancy, there's, as you know, the process before you pay off, wholly go and you do your final medicals, and that brought a couple of things to light again. Where I went in to get something signed, and the doctor looked at me and said, "You're not well." And there was things that come in because I was angry. I was angry all the time about a bunch of different things, and I didn't know why, because I'm not an angry person. I can get angry, don't worry about that. But in context.
Yeah.
And there was things starting to come out, and I was on the verge of probably medical discharge because I wasn't good. So I jumped before I was pushed.
Yeah.
So I still had a lot of things to deal with.
Yeah.
And what I'd done, my mind shifted. I never done any reserve time. I had no intention to. My mind physically shifted away from the Navy, the uniformed Navy side of the house.
Yep.
Still kept. My wife was still serving. She didn't pay off till 2020, I think. So I still input. I knew people. I still had my network, but I didn't want to put a uniform on again. Never. Basically. And
I was got a different uniform now. Mate.
Yeah, I know. I was so angry. I actually burnt my uniforms because I was angry. I was in that much of a bad state.
Understandable.
For a bunch of things, but so I moved on. But what I found, I had interests outside. I was still doing veteran stuff before I even left.
Yep.
So I had that interest. I was still involved with different sporting, rugby and a few other things. So I still had that interest. I'd always had an interest in politics, much to my wife's bloody discern.
Well, mate, you can't do worse than what we've got now. So
I know. I always had an interest. So what I did, I'd always followed a particular side. Won't talk because religion and politics we don't talk about. Remember?
No, they don't.
So they tell us. But anyway, I went particular side that I support. Yep. And because I've never been a card-carrying member, so I've become a card-carrying member as well. And I think I went to the following meet. Next minute, I become president and all those other things. You get positions. Yep. So I had an interest in that too. But also motorbike riding, interest in a bunch of different things that kept my mind alert.
Active,
yeah. Love working on old cars. I love all those things that I love doing. But the main thing is my mind had shifted from uniform, never going to wear it again, to where I am now.
And in that too, because I like to bring this in to talk about this for veterans who might be at that stage of transitioning or first responders. Speaking up and mental health is something that there's a stigma still attached to it, as I know.
Absolutely.
You and I, we've spoken in depth about this off air over numerous times around the fire. And for you, how important and advocating, how important is it to take those steps to get help and speak up and address those issues?
It's absolutely, it's paramount. As blokes, traditionally, we don't talk much. I still don't. My wife knows when I'm not in a good place because I don't say anything. As you can probably tell, I don't mind talking any other time, but she knows when I'm in a bad place, when I don't talk. I recede into myself. But you need to ask for help. I go and still talk to people. I still got tools. Part of my my therapy is talking. That's why at an early incident with the Firebolt, whilst it's a bad incident, traumatic, I play the picture out.
Of course.
So I'm in control of it.
Of course,
And it doesn't come back because believe me, I've lived through the nightmares. My wife, thrown my wife out of bed. She knows I get up and every now and again I still get into, like, I'm being attacked, and she anyway, she puts that in certain times, but I'm in a lot better place because I do a lot of different things as well.
Of course,
to keep myself looking after others that aren't. Yeah. There's always someone worse off than you.
Of course, and that's a great point you touch on as well, is that, and it's something that I'm going to highlight next year a lot. Well, yours will be this year.
Sure.
Yeah,
yep.
Is that I'm actually going to focus a lot more on the families, because the families aren't really spoken about, because, and as your wife's a little bit different because she's in the services, but it's the wives and the partners and the children that suffer the most from service. And
they get secondary PT, they get their own PTSD, but they can get secondary. And you find there's more and more service families coming out there, so it's getting bigger, and which often it helps and it doesn't help, because there's two things. It helps because they know what's going on, especially if they've deployed in the same areas, but also helps because they know what's going on. It's also negative because they know what's going on.
And for them it can be like, why is Dad like this? Why is Mum like this? Why, and as I say, your marriage to your wife, it's a credit to both of you, because there's some marriages that they don't. I've noticed that a lot of veterans I've had on, they're not together with their partners anymore, because it's a hard life.
That question come up. My wife, she does reserve time, and she does a lot on leadership and culture, and she deals with different people. And someone actually said to her the other day, "How have you survived?" And we go, "Well, there's been moments, you just work with it, do what you do." And sometimes I don't listen, so that's probably part of it.
Selective hearing, mate.
Yeah, selective hearing. Probably what's kept us together is the deployments keeping apart.
Yeah.
Say that out loud. In tongue-in-cheek almost, but it is hard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously, I had a SAS veteran on, episode 49, so
it's a while,
100 episodes ago now.
Yep.
And he said to me that his greatest sacrifice was his family.
Absolutely.
He sacrificed that time.
You'll hear that quite often. And people often... I went to an event not that long ago, and the key speaker talked about that and got quite emotional when they talk about that effect, the secondary effect on the family.
Absolutely.
Because it's easy. When you're deployed, it's you know what's going on.
Well, you're doing your job.
You're doing your job, and you can't do anything else. So all that stuff that goes on... and believe me, I haven't been on both sides of the fence. I know what goes on. I would prefer to be deployed, because that's what even though things go on, you can concentrate on when you do. Back at home, you've got all the other stuff that goes on around that.
Mortgage
plus,
bills,
some person overseas sending your stuff back to I'm enjoying it in sunny Dubai or whatever, That doesn't help either.
No. And for you, and because I really wanted to bring that in, because I know you've gone through that, and that period of that speaking up, asking for help, and I've done it myself, and it's not weak to speak.
No, not at all.
Sign of strength, mate.
And that's where people need to do, and finding more and more, and I especially like being around like the Keith Payne Veteran Benefit Group, is we have a bunch of people at different ages, from 20 through to our eldest is 98, still drives. Apparently he's still got his own teeth in his own hair, in his own hearing is what he tells us. I'm not going to argue with him.
Yeah, right.
But it's the fact that they spend a lot of time talking.
Yeah.
And they talk to each other. There's no distinct groups. We've got Army, Navy, Air Force, civilian. We've got frontline. We've got, and everyone talks to each other. And I think that's what's probably paramount with our group is the fact that we have that. We open it up to that, and we'll drive it, and we're talking, always talking.
Of course. And you mentioned, mate, that the Keith Payne VC Veterans Benefit Group, which you are now the president and vice chairman.
Yep.
Mate, talk to me how this came about. And I know our good mate, Rick Meehan, O.A.M, another Navy veteran who's been on the podcast, and I've had him on talking about Digger Day. Mate, how did this come about?
Well, Rick and I have known each other for a long time. We worked in the workshop together. We've done all sorts of things, and we've also involved a lot of charity work. Doing charity bike rides from Brisbane down to Nowra to raise money for kids with special needs and all these. So we've known each other for a long time, and also done a lot of those things. Enjoy the game of rugby together. He went more of a leaguey than a true rugby player. I say that out loud. He's a back as well. He's not a stinking. He's not a
He'll
good.
Listen to this afterwards.
I know he's a stinking back, not a forward. But I'll put up with it. But he and what happened is we were we did a lot of work with the RSL, and now our RSL, we was nearly shutting the books, and we kept it going, and we had honestly a bit of falling out. We won't go too into it really, but we had a bit of falling out. But at the same time, we'd done a lot of work with Keith Payne, known him for years, and he helped us out a lot. And I think he was about 86, give or take. Don't quote me on the date. But he sat Rick and I down and said, I'm thinking of semi-retiring. Now you've got to think 86. Put that into perspective. Someone semi-retiring starts looking in their 50s, not at 86.
Yeah, that's right.
So he said, and I need someone to continue the work that I do with veterans. As you know, he just does so much. He never stops. God. 92 this year and he's still going, not slowing down. And he got us aside and said, I need you to do this. So at that time, we left the RSL for our own personal reasons.
Yep.
And so it worked out good. So we got together and we come up with our plan and got his vision on what he wanted us to do.
Yep.
And we set that up as our mission and our duty statement, and obviously legally, so we know, because we're going to use his name under he's our patron. It's his tutelage. I can tell you, he's a very good tutor.
When he speaks, you listen.
Being a good ex-warrant officer too, he would a retired warrant officer too. You can imagine.
Yep.
He and sat us down. That's how we come up with this concept, and then we just gathered along the way. We had people in our group just gather, sit down and do all the legal stuff. Like we're a properly registered charity, non-for-profit charity, through the ACNC, through the Charities Commission, through Fair Trade. So I looked after that side of it because Rick does a lot of other things. So I did all that and I enjoyed doing it. That's why we did it. So we set it up so it's all properly, all audited, all those good things that come along with running a charity, as you can well and truly understand. But then we formed committees and we got people who do stuff, and we just come up with great idea like the Digger Day. This is the 14th year. Considering we're told it's never going to last. We know it has. Things like the Walk to Talk on the Mondays and Fridays, where we get veterans and frontline and civilians, others, get together and we go for a walk around the park talking, and then we sit around talking absolute rubbish for about an hour or so. And that's what it's all about. I say that. We get some good things. But and that's what we did, good things like that. And we do a lot of work. We started surfing programs, got that off the ground, got good grants for that side of it, got that going. Guitar programs, all these programs that are helping vets. Because as you know, there's many things, and I've got my own things we can talk about a bit later when we talk about the post. I've got my own things that I love doing for my own mental health. But there's things where people physically do things that take up the space where bad things can come in.
Of course, and you've now in where the Keith Payne VC benefit group is, you guys have done some amazing work, and not just for veterans, but also there's so many things there's been many burials of servicemen and so much and I just see it all the time on the group, and I'm like, far out, the guys they never stop. Never stop. And we
love doing it. And once again, we're very proud that all of us are volunteers. We don't get paid for this. Don't get me wrong, we're doing all right with superannuations and all. So we're looked after ourselves, but it's all volunteer. And our members are all volunteer, and we ask them to do things, and they will do them, and just extraordinary. Back to doing extraordinary things. Things like, doing the grave sites, finding them, and that's become a really good passion. And involved with the local funeral director in town, Craig Murphy's, good friend of ours, and he gets involved and helps us out, do different things, and all those other things that we do as a group. And you had Rick on earlier, said we're yin and yang. Rick's the tactical, the Tassie devil. We see him spinning around. And I tend to be a bit more strategic, a bit calmer. So I think it's a yin and the yang which makes it work.
And it's beautiful to see that you two can still give each other shit.
Yeah, of course. That'd go without saying.
And of course, and as I say, and Rick, I love you, brother, but you gotta respect your warrant officer, mate.
Make a point.
Mate. So
make a point of that. Call him chief. No, Ian's. The good thing is we've known each other for so long that we're almost think along the same lines. Like I went to pick the phone up, put my finger to press the button, and it started ringing. I thought that's good. I haven't even touched it, and he's ringing me, and we've got the same thinking along the way. But once again, it's that yin and yang. I think makes things work.
Yeah, of course.
In anything.
And as you say today, we've just gone to Digger Day, for the 14th year. It was. I actually think it was the best one.
Thank you.
That we've done, and I've been privileged to be to 3 now.
Yep.
And I have to say, today's was fantastic.
Thank you for that.
And as it was, we were honouring Dasher Week.
Yes, yep.
60 years after his action that he was posthumously awarded his Victoria Cross. We had a lot of his family,
including his widow Edna and his son George.
Yeah, of course. And it was and to have the trophy now.
Yes,
that Dasher played for back in, and that must fill you with absolute pride that you guys are now, as I said, you're not wearing the uniform anymore. You're serving and have found a new purpose in a different way.
Absolutely, and in fact, not that having a lot of our senior officers that come to help us out, we've known them, we grew up with them in different trades, and it's more of a friend, one-on-one names and things like that, and they're all willing to help us out. And look, and the community involvement, you probably saw walking around the rugby.
Yeah.
I played for Shoalhaven for a long time, and it's very social. Yeah. It can be dangerous, very dangerous, but it's involves community. Now, one thing we did mention there, both Rick and I have been Citizens of the Year for the Shoalhaven in different years.
Yeah.
So we've both done that. So 2 OAMs. We've got a fella, Darryl Kelly, who's an ex RSM, Army RSM, and he was RSM of Army ceremonial at one stage. But we're all do there, and Rick and I have both been Citizens of the Year. So it's not us bragging; it's more the fact that it's recognising. The community recognises what we do, and we get in trouble because Rick and I travel the world together on different functions, and I think we call each other like, "Where's your other half? Which one are you talking about, my wife or Rick?" Because we know each other. We've rooms together,
of course,
and we don't hear each other snore, but our wives reckon we snore. We don't hear each other. But we've travelled the world together doing on different adventures, doing different things, and Nepal, over the UK, Manila, all those things we've travelled together doing this veteran stuff. And we're so proud to do that.
Yeah, of course. And as you say, mate, you represent Nowra so well, and it's
a lovely. We love the Shoalhaven, Nowra Shoalhaven.
Yeah, so, it's beautiful. And this is a new question that I want to bring in is, mate, what have you learnt through some of your greatest failures, and what lessons have you taken away from those failures?
Things I wouldn't do again. Look, some of the failures I've learnt. You need to fail. And that's not saying go out and fail to try to fail, but you need to fail because it's a reality check and you learn better ways of doing it. We always say, if you're not learning from experience, you're not learning. Yeah. Some of the failures, I'm trying to think of, I really can't think of failures. I've had failures where I've missed out on certain jobs, I've missed out on certain things, and it's a failure at the time and I've devastated, with different things that have happened. Yeah. But I look back and things happen for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. We just don't know what it's about. Yep. And I've looked back, if I've got this particular job, let's say, that I missed out on, I'm really angry that I missed out on it, but I wouldn't get to do what I'm doing now. Yep. So I don't think I can really learn from failures, not do it again, obviously. But the big one is you've got to learn that a failure it's there for a reason. We're not very good at reading signs, and that's a human trait. You've just got to read the sign that there's a reason why we missed out on this particular thing, or we did something wrong in this went down a particular road that we shouldn't have gone down because it prevented us from doing something else, or it pointed us in the right direction. Yep. So that's part of my philosophy.
And I think too, and I often say this whenever I give a keynote talk or something, and especially to young people, is you don't really learn anything from winning. Winning doesn't really... Sometimes your greatest failures, your greatest losses, that's where the growth is, because you go, oh, okay, that didn't work. And then you've got to problem solve and you've got to become more resilient and find another way. Yeah. And as you said, you will find what you're meant to do will eventually...
The door will open and it'll happen. We just, once again, we've got to be aware of those signs.
Exactly.
But we're not aware of the signs. So.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just something that a new question that I thought of today.
That's a good question, really good. And a segue from what we've been doing, so I think that's really good.
Yeah, and then, mate, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? And, 15, But 18-year-old
18,
self,
that's probably a good age. What I give myself, look, there's things that I would try to learn more. At the moment, I mean, I've lived into a spot where I'll learn every day. I love reading. I'll spend hours on YouTube, on Google. I'll spend, I mean, more electronic now than reading. I still read. I still love reading, don't get me wrong. But I'm trying to learn something every day. And if I listen to podcasts, because, you know, when I'm, rather than listen, I love my music, don't get me wrong, but I listen because I'm always learning. You know, you've got your podcast.
Yep.
One of my biggest is his History Hit. Dan Snow History Hit.
Yep, love it.
And he's a maritime tragic, which I am too. That's how I got to know him. But I listen to that and I'll come home going, I never knew that. I knew something. But I never knew that. And I think I bore my wife and kids with absolute, you know, with witless without with the stuff that I learned.
Yeah.
They go, what do you learn today? This. But I've learned something.
Of course.
And
Well, every day is a day to
that's
opportunity to learn.
So that's all I'd say is just learn more. You know, and try more things without the fear of failure.
And enjoy the ride.
I love the ride. The roller coaster.
Well, let's talk about that, mate, because I know one of your other passions is your motorbike. And you and I, we love motorbikes. We've
talked about it,
yeah. So talk me through this and for your mental health.
It's not one of my many passions. when I left Navy, obviously had the Keith Payne stuff to do. Got into politics, and I'm heavy into that. Once again, it bores my wife and kids.
I love it,
but I'm passionate about what I do.
Yep.
And motorbike riding. I got involved with veterans, not the veterans, but another motorbike group.
Yep.
And I found there's two. When you ride, there's your own isolation inside a helmet. I've got a big Harley, so it makes lots of noise, and I like the noise. Don't get me wrong. I like the rumble it makes.
Yep.
Of 114 cubic inches.
Oh, I love it.
And I love the rumble of that. But when you're travelling with groups, there's also that group thing.
Yep.
Because you know you've got to space out. You are, and being a bike rider, you'd understand, and so would listeners if they ride a bike. You are hyper vigilant.
Yep, 100%.
Because
you're riding like you're trying to.
Those filthy car drivers.
Oh, mate.
We're trying to get you, but you're hyper vigilant. But you're also in your own little space. And when you get somewhere, you're with a group. I mean, myself and a few others, we organised the Black Dog ride here in the shoulder in the south coast.
Yep.
Last year it was. We had 160 bikes with 20 PM passengers as well.
Yeah, right.
And I was at the back, and other friend was at the front. And looking down the road, we're isolated in our helmets. However, you've got that group. And there is nothing better than riding through a little town, like heading down south, you've got Ulladulla and riding through, and you just got, and people are cheering you and doing all that. So you've got that personal isolation, then you've got your group isolation.
Yep.
And when you get there, you talk about, oh, how's that ride? Do you remember that corner? We look good, you know, all those things. Then I find motorbike riders with a lot of things, they're good people. You talk about your bike. If you've got an issue, it's missing on, you know. And when this particular range, the engine's missing, and someone will go, I'll tell you what it is, because it's happened to me. There's none of this hiding stuff, because motorbike cars are the same, because I'm involved with different car people, and bike will talk to you. They don't hide stuff. They'll talk to you. So there's the motorbike side of the house, and I still ride as much as I can. Once again, get that 114 cubic inch rumbling. But I have to start it just about out on the road, because my wife reckons it rattles the doors and I get in trouble.
Yep.
But a second passion I've got into was forging.
Right.
Good forging, not with pen and...
Yeah.
Because I've always been a fan of my trade, skill of hand. I love it. Got that from my father, I think. Love using my hands for different things, and part of my trade as well. And my boy's got that because he's a motor mechanic, and his boy, my little grandson, is a hands-on young fella as well. But I got into that, and I thought, I can make this. So I made myself a big forge.
Okay.
In my shed.
Yeah, right.
I've got a nice shed at home that I work in. Made a big forge out of an old air compressor.
Yep.
Gets about 1,200 degrees. Did all that. And then I just started learning on how to forge knives, and whether it be out of leaf spring, which I get from my boy, or just bits. I've become a metal scab, because metal and wood, I look at it a whole different way, because I look at it, I could make that. And so I've made a whole heap, and whilst you can't see it on the podcast, I'll show you later on, Adam, some of the things I've made. But it's skill of hand. And I'll go out at night into my shed, isolated again, Music, Johnny Cash helps me out. I like Johnny Cash.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I like to listen to a bit of that while I'm and I just go out and because there's something primeval about heating something up and banging it with a hammer.
Yeah.
I think there's something medieval, primeval, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
But you've got to constant like motorbike riding where you're hyper vigilant. When you've got a heavy bit of metal on the end of a set of tongs, a hot bit of metal, you've got to concentrate.
100%, mate. Things can go.
But I've made some beautiful pieces out of old files, out of leaf springs, and
so it's your just cathartic.
Yeah, I found that I've got right. It's addictive would probably be probably a good word. And I found once again, like the bike riding community, the car drive, veteran community, the forging, knife making community, things like that are good. They will share stuff with you.
Yeah, good.
You know, if I'm having trouble, I can't get a particular something isn't forging or doing wrong, I'll talk to them. They say, have you tried this? Or you get on YouTube and people show some good stuff. And I've made some really good things and just learnt new skills.
Yep.
That I'll go out and try to weld. I always love welding. I mean, I've done welding, so I've got that. But welding, forging metal together, sparks and dipping the hot bit of whatever into oil when it gets a bit of fire. All those things you see on Forged in Fire.
Yeah.
And learning the process of metallurgy, which is something they've been doing for thousands of years, and it's still a skill that we need to learn. It's an art.
Yeah.
And learning how to heat treat, from normalising to quenching to tempering, all those things that and I come and show them, this is what I've made today, and she goes, oh, that's nice, dear.
Yeah. But as you say, mate, you've got to, and this is what I love about the podcast is every veteran, every first responder is different in how they find that passion, that purpose, and what helps them and makes them feel the best version of themselves.
Absolutely.
Post-military,
and you get
first responder.
Things like that you get a finished product.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at, and I'll go back and I'll play with them and I'll adjust them and do all that. But even shaping a handle out of a block of wood.
Yep.
You get a block of wood and it's got beautiful grain, so you want to get the best out of the grain, but just shaping it. So it's about concentrating and using old skill. I mean, my hands, I've got dirty hands again. But it's using that, and that's what we try to do with with the Keith Payne Group. A lot of things that we like the surfing program.
Yep.
Getting out in the surf. And some people had never stepped foot in the surf before, but suddenly you got them on a board.
Yep.
Is an accomplishment. Once they get up and do your cowabungas and all those other good things that you do.
Yep.
Involved with I've been playing guitar for years. Another little thing. I'll go out and have a little twang here and there. Play ukulele as well.
Yep.
But we started I helped out a fellow who started a guitar group up at Jamboree. And we watched people come in who had never picked a guitar up before. And suddenly you've got them to play at least 2 chords and get them to relax, because when you play guitar, you've got to be relaxed.
Yep.
Otherwise, it doesn't work. And trying to get them to it's not just relax.
Yeah.
And
it's a hard thing to do.
Absolutely, because you it's motor skills. You've got one hand doing one thing, one doing another, and the brain doing whatever it wants to do. But just trying to get people to relax.
Yep.
And things like that we try to...
Of course, yeah. And you're passionate, as I say, like you and I have had many conversations about this, and this is what I love where we are tonight. We've had long conversations around the fire.
Absolutely.
Talking about...
fire. See, something primeval again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But also, too, it's that sitting around a fire and, as you say, there's something special about this place, because if one veteran or one first responder is struggling, we all talk about stories that can help each other. And they're
good stories, and they're not bad stories, because we all know limits often. Yeah. I go to Bathurst every year for the car racing. I go for probably about 20 years, and a lot of our stuff is done on a Saturday night around that fire.
Yep.
We just sit around, just talk and solving problems, and people will come by your camp and sit down with you.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you find out they're a veteran or they're a frontline person, and they just said, because the fire is the draw thing, and just sitting around letting things out. Once again, back to primevals, we use that word again.
Yeah, that's right. And there's no judgment.
Absolutely.
There's no judgment around that fire, and that's what I love.
And fire is not judgmental, and when you're around it, there's no judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You and I, we're nearly finished. We're about we're about to go and have a wine together.
Absolutely.
And enjoy the fire. And,
yes. Yep.
Mate, but looking back now, with 35 years, nearly 36 years serving your country, was joining the Navy still the best decision?
I think it was. I look back, and Yeah, my father, master tradesman, spent his whole life in a factory. And that's not putting him down, that's just the environment, the way it was. Mm-hmm. For me, I've travelled the world. I played rugby for the Royal Australian Navy in England. I toured, my passion is rugby union.
Yep.
And whilst the listeners can't see, you probably see on my front row body.
Yeah.
I toured with the Navy.
So am I, mate.
Yeah. Good looking blokes are always front rowers.
That's right.
I went to UK, did a tour over there.
Yep.
I've played rugby. I've deployed to places. They pay me to do it. They fed me.
Yeah.
They gave me somewhere to sleep. Yeah. They told me what to wear. Gave me the stuff to wear. I'm Hawaii. I've been to Southeast Asia. I've been all over the place and ran around Australia dozens of times, both in the air, across the air, around on the shores.
Yep.
Visited some really good places, met some really good people. I don't think I would have had that opportunity to do that without doing this. And the journey, I tell you, it's there's two incidents, and then we'll wrap up. One of them is when Governor General Sir Peter Cosgrave, when he was finishing his time as a Governor General, Rick and I were asked to be the MC when he come to here in Narrabri. The Mayor asked us to be the MC of the thing. And I started when I introduced, I said, it's very appropriate that two old sailors get to say goodbye to an old soldier. Now, Sir Peter Cosgrave thought that was absolutely beautiful, and for me, I got the opportunity to do that. Who gets to say thank you and thank you and all the best for the rest of your journey to a Governor General? Got to do that. The other one, Rick and I were in the UK, in London, doing veteran stuff. We just been at Australia House, so we spent time with Matt Anderson, who's now the director down at the War Memorial. And a friend of mine was the captain. He was, so we did all that anyway. We were coming back. We're in our suits, in the back of an old Hackney cab, and we come past the Buckingham Palace in the big roundabout that's leads into the mall area.
Yeah.
Towards Admiralty House, past Regent Park, if I remember right, wherever it is. And we took a selfie of us in the back of this cab, and you can see Buckingham Palace in the back. We looked at each other and we said, not bad for a couple of old buddy Navy blokes to do that. And the one last incident is Rick and I were going, our last trip over the UK, we went into France because we went up to Fromelles and a few other places up there.
I highly recommend them too.
And that friend of mine who I joined the Navy with, he just finished his stint in America as a logistics person, and they were flying back by Paris. Yep. And his partner, we didn't tell him we were there. We had about 2 hours in Paris before we had to go out to Fromelles.
Yep.
And his partner brought him into the station there, and there we met each other, and he had tears, gave each other a big hug and did all that. And we sat down in a cafe, Paris cafe, as in the street, and all three of us looked at each other and said, three old sailors, look at us.
Yeah. And mate, that's, as you say, if you hadn't joined the Navy, you probably wouldn't have been sitting in Paris.
With two other mates and
lifelong mates.
Lifelong mates, yeah. We looked at each other and you couldn't pay us to do it, but they did. No, not for that, that trip.
That's right, yeah.
And we got to meet some, and we meet Keith, we meet all the rest of our Victoria Cross recipients, plus Willie, plus we know people around the world.
Yeah, the George Cross.
Yeah, George Cross of Valors.
Cross of Valors.
Rick and I got invited to the last living Gurkha to his 84th birthday, and sadly to his funeral up in Nepal.
Yep.
As part of our role that we do now, and we're proud to do that.
Mate, I'm proud to call you mate.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We've met through the podcast.
Absolutely,
and mate, as I say, I've got the best job in the world. I get to sit with veterans and first responders and record your stories for history. This is what we're doing. This is going to be locked away forever, and it's for your kids, your grandkids.
Absolutely, and we need to do more of that. We've got to think some of the older fellas who didn't have this opportunity like we do now. A lot of stuff's been lost because they don't do it.
Exactly.
See, through things like yourself, which I very much appreciate everything you do and say to our veteran world and our frontline world. So thank you.
No, thanks,
I know we're getting to keep up the great work with that.
Thanks,
but it needs to be recorded for posterity, so people understand and get where we're coming from.
Yep.
Because everyone's got a story. I've been asked to write a book a dozen times, and it always worries me because if I write a book, it'd probably have to go in the fiction section because no one except us would believe it.
Yeah.
Because there'd be stuff in there you go, oh, hang on.
Yeah, did that happen? Oh, heck. Yeah.
Like I said, anything pre-Facebook is alleged. Anything pre-Facebook.
Mate, I can give you some advice on a book. I'm a published author. So
I do appreciate that. If I come in, I'll be looking you up.
Yeah, that's right. And mate, as you say, like it's recording this history, and as you know, a couple of years ago, I lost a very close friend of mine to a motorbike accident over in the US, and I was only talking to him a couple of days before he died, and it was his mum got in contact with me just after he passed, and now of all the podcasts I've done, and I've recorded over 150, and saying that number it's huge, and his podcast is it's probably my most treasured podcast now because. Not just because of who he was a Special Forces, Second Commando veteran. He opened the door to that world for me. But also that I was talking to him 2 days before he died on the phone, like you and I now. And it was actually, you mentioned the book, and that's why it's relevant. It was that phone call that I actually made to say that I'd actually signed my book contract. And he said, brother, you tell me when the book launch is and I'll be out there. And 2 days later, he was gone. And as you say, and this is where I said, and his mum said, every time I want to hear his voice, I can just plug your podcast. And that
we talk about keeps people alive.
Exactly.
We watch old movies because it keeps people alive. Exactly. We listen to podcasts because it keeps people alive.
Exactly right. And you know, he said it to me when he was alive that there's only two ways he ever wanted to go out was either in a gunfight or on his Harley, and surrounded by his brothers, and he was surrounded by his brothers on his Harley. So, and I often say that to his kids is that not a lot of us get to choose our fate and go out and leave this world. And I said, I take a bit of solace that your dad got to go out doing what he loves, surrounded by his mates. A lot of us don't choose how we die.
Of course.
You know, some of us are, old and we lose our faculties and I just think it's so important to keep doing this work, and I will. And that's, as I say, it was just, that's why we do it, and that's why it's important. And there's two final questions that I have for you, mate. And I just, sorry I went on a bit of a tangent there.
No, it's all good. Yeah. It'll all tie in, all segue in.
Exactly. And mate, what advice now, and full circle, what advice would you give to anyone who is, and especially any young person, who is thinking of a career in the Navy today?
I would still recommend to join. I've got no qualms in telling people to join. I'll tell them all the good things I do. Now, how that gels into... I really hate when someone says back in my day. I'll never use that ever. But I understand things change. Yep. And I'll tell them what made me join and what kept me in for so long. Yep. And if it gels in with their life and the way defence is now, fantastic. But I'll tell them my experiences is, and I would recommend to join.
Of course, and we need people coming forward and joining.
Absolutely.
We need to protect what the country we love.
Important, and tied in with that, we need more, because that also adds respect, because families understand as well. Because at the moment we're down to the 0.2, whatever the percentage happens to be, who don't understand.
But it's not just, it's great point you touch on right there, is it's not just in the military, it's first responders too.
Absolutely.
Police, we are understaffed. Ambulance,
people have got you go through the same things, and often with the front line is on a daily basis.
Correct.
I've got good friends who are fireys, ambos, coppers, things like that, and you listen to them talk, and they're exactly the same as what defence do, but they're seen on daily, and they're seeing the same thing over and over.
And it is hard, mate. And the only difference I say is, mate, you lucky buggers get some support at the end of it.
They're things that we've got to really fight for. As we know, there's still a lot to do in the veteran space in that thing. Yep. But I think we've come a long way.
Of course,
we haven't finished.
Yep.
Getting there, but I think we've come a long way compared to...
Oh, big time, yeah. Like you look at when Keith went through and the Vietnam vets and all that,
No, I mean, almost shunned, and we should never have done that to anyone. And that's back to what we talk about. I don't want to ever see that. I don't want to ever see us shunned by by a country to start with for something that people put their hand up to do. A little mantra that I have, and I'd say this often, whoever people put their hand up to serve, doesn't matter how you joined, how long you joined for, whether you joined for 1 year, 2 years, 6 years, or whatever. You spent 40 years, one day, 40 years, and this is often argued. I call people they're a veteran. Then you're a Vietnam veteran from there.
Yep.
But people served. They served, and in an extraordinary job, doing extraordinary things. And that's not just us frontline as well, but it's the same thing. You served 1 day, 40 years. You served,
and that's one of my good friends. She used to, and this is where I hate where the defence medal has been cheapened. As that, it's the Coca-Cola medal, or it's the Thanks for Coming medal,
whatever.
She used to make it a point when she would give it out and she was a major, that she said, when she goes, guys, the 2 medals that I'm proud of are my 4-year medal and my 15-year medal.
Absolutely.
Because those medals are the two, and she said the defence medal is only 2% of Australians will ever wear that medal. 2%.
Absolutely.
So why cheapen it and say, thanks for coming?
I'm with you. I stand on ceremony when it comes to that. And when I was ever involved in giving, I would make a big deal.
Of course.
Getting an award, doesn't matter what it is, if it's a written commendation, it's still a big deal.
Correct.
And it's a big deal for that person on the day as well. That and getting promotion. There's 2 things that you make a big deal of, no matter what level the promotion is, because it's that person. And if you don't do it properly, they'll remember that.
Of course.
And I hope that they wouldn't go on to do it to someone else, but no, we reward our people for doing extraordinary things.
Exactly, and that's, recognition goes a very long way.
Absolutely it does.
It goes a
whether it be on that
way.
day or into the future.
Exactly.
And it means a lot to that person to go home and say, look what I got today.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually feel proud, and knowing people's names is also helps too.
Of course, mate, of course. Yeah. And, mate, one final question and then we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
Mate, what are your plans now going forward with your family?
Yeah.
Now that, as you say, you've had a long career, your wife's had a long career. Mate, what are you looking forward to in the future?
Oh, God. Lots of things. I look forward to going out my shed.
Yeah.
But no, I've got a new lease on life, really, when I look at it, because 2 kids, I've got twins, boy and a girl. They're 27 now. I've got a 2-year-old grandson now, my boy there. And he takes up my day. We get him every Thursday, and I call it Little Dude Day. And my wife goes, mate, you're just smaller, but he is. So that's my whole day with him.
Yep.
And we go to Bunnings together. He's quite a big boy for 2, because my boy's 6'4", and he's quite a big. But we go to Bunnings together. He loves doing so. So that's the future. I mean, we still do things around, look at in clothes, but that's
travel and
do it. My wife and I love travelling. We went to the States last year and a lot of other things. And I actually got to visit the grave of the fella from the Firebolt incident at Arlington, and I put a poppy on his and spent a bit of time with it. So we try to do that, travel. But little grandson, he's a terror,
mate. I tell you what, like my mum, she became a grandmother 4 years ago, and she said it is a different love to your own children. And explain to me that, because
apparently I was a hard ass with my kids. Apparently, I don't know if I was, but with the they get away with things, and they've got to be a little bit more softer. Like I said, I take him shopping with me. We go Bunnings. I love Bunnings. Bunnings is our trip. We both get our Bunnings stamps when we go out because we've been good boys.
Yep. Do you get your snag from Bunnings?
Oh, yeah, he loves it. We share a snag together. Yeah, so we do things like that. And when at home, it's funny, when he wants to sit with me, we'll go and sit on my lounge, my chair, and he just sits there and we has a drink or something. We watch Corrupting with Dad's Army and old Batman bloody shows.
Yep.
Thunderbirds he loves.
Yep.
But it's different. It's just, and it's really, it's a thing when he comes up to you, and he's just starting to talk a little bit now and get a bit more new words. But wake up from his sleep in the afternoon, he actually push my wife out of the way and come and grab me, grab him by the hand, and we'll go and sit down until he wakes up.
Yep.
So things like that.
Yeah.
But I know I'm hard ass with all of them.
Mate, I think you've earned that to enjoy the time with your family.
Thank you.
Now, and mate, it's been an absolute honour and a privilege to sit down with you. As I said, 3 years in the making.
Absolutely.
We've been building
well worth the wait.
Yeah, mate, we've been building this up, and now we'll go and enjoy a nice red sitting by the fire, and I couldn't think of a better way to finish another successful digger day and just go and reflect on our friendship. And,
Absolutely.
Mate, you've brought pride to your family and you've served your country with honour and distinction. And as I say, mate, 36 years, what a career, what a story. Fred Campbell, O.A.M, thank you, mate, for coming on True Blue.
No, thank you, Adam, and such an honour to be here with you, because I've always wanted to do this.
Yep.
And obviously I listen to your podcasts, and I hope people listening to it get something out of it, because back to what I learnt, and hopefully they spend a bit of time driving in the car or listening.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the honour of being here today.
No, thanks, mate. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. Real talk with those that pledge to keep us safe with grit, sacrifice and determination. See you next time.